Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Second Friday Coffee House live online concert series. I'm your host, John Svetke. Thanks for tuning in. And if you're watching this the next day, thanks for tuning in the next day. The Second Friday Coffee House has been in existence since 1985. We are the longest running all-benefit coffee house in the New England area that we know of. There may be others that are older than us, but we don't think so. All of the net proceeds from our coffee house series directly go to charities of our choosing. They're mostly local charities most of the time. This year we haven't chosen who we're sending the money to, but likely it's going to be some food bank or some local farm that gets food to people in the area who need it. We've also been trying very hard to give some extra money towards our musicians who have been so generous with their time during this weird pandemic time. We have season tickets available, which is sort of just a nice way of saying make a charitable donation. If you so see fit to put money in the virtual tip jar tonight, that money's all going to Don Conoscenti, our wonderful performer tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to bring my friend Don out here. So give me 1 second and I will figure out how to make that happen. Hold on. Here we go. Don.
Hi, John.
Hi, Don. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Don Conoscenti live from Taos, New Mexico this evening. And over the course of the night, we'll do a lot of chatting in between some of Don's songs, and we'll tell some lies and trade some stories and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So you'll maybe find out about how you too can procure some of Don Conoscenti's world famous garlic. I may be talking out of turn here. He hasn't started a company yet. So how you doing, Don?
Doing good.
It's so nice to see you. I feel like I've been telling people I've pretty much been using this coffee house concert series as a way of just like hanging out with my friends online. It's like my personal FaceTime that everybody gets to watch and hear my awesome musician friends play for a while. So
well, we love seeing you.
Oh, I love seeing you. I'm so happy that you're playing, that you're doing this for us tonight, and this is so great. And I can't wait to hear the songs I haven't heard for a little while and all that, and sing along and play along back here at home. So,
and I haven't played them in a long time. I mean, this is pretty rare for me. I don't do much of this anymore. Living a very different life.
I'm glad that you've like come out of semi-retirement to grace our online stage. So over the course of the night, just let me know if you want to chat some more, and we'll do that chatting, yakking kind of thing. But for now, I'm just gonna like tune myself off and let you have the screen and play as long as you want.
I'll do a couple songs. I'll be ready to chat again.
Oh, cool. Sounds good. It's all right. You.
Thanks, brother. Kind of hard to follow the Loomers. Doing that Allman Brothers thing. Let's go to Milan, walk the ancient streets, and do the things that lovers do, use the language that they speak. In La Piazza della Scala, the sun is sinking. Tourists are getting lost. What are you thinking, Marie? sorry for your sad beginning. You gotta let it go. There's a lighthouse on the coast. See the things you love the most. See yourself through my eyes, Molly. Let's go to Milan, walk the ancient streets, do the things that lovers do, use the language that they speak. What are you thinking, Molly? Swim all seven seas. Swim all seven seas. Swim all seven seas. Salt you spilled into my wounds. Just the paradox of grace. It's just the paradox of grace. There's no strength in numbers with the company. Some kind of catastrophe is always bringing you to your knees. But if you fell in the troubled waters, I would swim all seven seas. Swim all seven seas. Southern seas. So, John, how are you? Is this going all right? Is this okay?
I think this is going great.
Oh, good.
Going great. You sound great. The you have a new fan tonight. I don't know if you're able to watch the there's a woman named Beverly who is discovering you this evening for the first time, and she says you sound great. So
hi Beverly, thank you very much.
And our old friend Jennifer Matson Andrews is watching tonight too.
Oh,
she just sent a note that says clap, clap, clap. So she says hello.
Clapping back at you.
Yeah, so it's fun. Like I'm watching the comments now, so I think I can see when people write things, I can see them occasionally. So it's great. You sound great.
That's great.
It's nice to see the guitar in our faces and everything, and it's it's so nice to hear Paradox of Grace. It's such a nice song.
You and I got to visit a little bit last weekend. I crashed my motorcycle on Tuesday.
Oh my God.
And I messed my hands up a little bit, but I thought they were all back. And then I was hitting a couple of chords. And I was like, oh, damn.
Oh, that hurts when I do that with my hand.
Yeah, I sprained a couple fingers. And
oh, geez. Yikes.
And an ankle. And
oh, my gosh.
It's dirt bikes. That's what they do.
Well,
they crash.
But I mean, it must be especially hard for you because, like, you do all those, like, you have the 10 capos on your guitar there, so you always have to be reaching behind them. And
yeah.
So if you sprained a finger, that's going to make it even more difficult. So
I broke one like right before a show in Eddie's attic. One night I was out goofing around with our buddy David Labriere, bass player extraordinaire, toured with John Mayer forever. And we were goofing around going for coffee before the show started, and I was jumping up on some mailbox, newspaper boxes, and just being a little bit acrobatic, and one of them gave way from underneath me, and I had to go in and play the whole show with a broken pinky. This one, that was unusual.
You may be the only person I know who's ever broken a finger on a mailbox. I've just got to say.
Yeah, I do things I shouldn't.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
I still do, and I still do, and I can't help it. I can't help it.
It's crazy. All right, I'm gonna let you get back to some more music for everybody. How about that?
Back to work. Get to work. Thanks, John. Song's a bit geographical. And I like to get that way, and as a songwriter. You travel a lot. You're influenced by people, places, things. You fall in love a lot with people, places, and things. And in southern Colorado, at the border of New Mexico, is a region that's very unique. It's not really quite Colorado, and it's not quite New Mexico. And it's a very high elevation. It's the largest alpine valley on Earth. It's the San Luis Valley, and it's a dramatic and beautiful place. I lived there for a while, and I fell in love with it, and I wrote this song as a love letter to the valley. Normally I would play this on the banjo, but my banjo was stolen from me on the way to the Woody Guthrie Festival a couple of summers ago. Beautiful valley, beautiful desert, San Juan mountains, and the sun grays too. Me and my banjo, we picked a lot of music. We sure are happy to be here with you. Grand old river starts in the valley, telling its story everywhere it goes. It's sneaking past Taos, holding back Texas, jumping the border, down into Mexico. And there's a big volcano south of after my father, and I sure like that. You could go away to Boulder or out to California, even New York City, but you keep coming back to the beautiful valley, beautiful desert, San Juan mountains, mysterious light. Me and my banjo, we picked a lot of music, and I sure am happy to be here tonight. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land, from the Taos Pueblo to the Cherokee Nation, San Carlos Apache Reservation, from the Osage Arbors to the Hopi Mesa, this land. Finger-picking tune about a road trip. Ariana took a road trip with Annalise. Left New York on Christmas, won't be back till spring. She called from Oklahoma on a Tuesday afternoon. Says we're having us a big time, but baby Dalai Lama too. Said the stars out here are so bright, they're drowning out the moon from a payphone in Tulsa. This is not the girl I knew. Called me from Durango. She called again from Glenwood Springs. Says that I should meet her at the Rainbow Gathering. She's quoting Kerouac and the Dalai Lama too. She said the stars out here are so bright, they're drowning out the moon from a payphone and tell you right, this is not the girl I knew. I hear a pale moon whispering, says the hardest thing in this life might be to set your true love free. She's quoting Kerouac and the Dalai Lama too. She said the stars out here are so bright, they're drowning out the moon from a payphone in Taos. This is not the girl I knew. John, where are you hiding?
I'm here.
I want to brag about something, and it's not bragging. It's just I'm so happy that one of my heroes growing up, and this is an unusual story. I played flute in high school, and I wrestled.
I didn't know that. Well, I now know two new things about you.
I was on the wrestling team, but the band got out early every day, and I hated high school. So I could get out of school 45 minutes early every day if I joined the band.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to play drums because I was a drummer in grade school in a rock band. Too many drummers. And I thought, I'll play trumpet. That'll be hip. Couldn't afford it. They were desperate for flute players. I ended up playing first chair flute for 3 years and being immersed in this 70-piece orchestra. And I got really deep into it. And I even went to a state competition with the clarinet player whose name was Mark Williams. He went on to become Mars Williams, and he played in a band called The Waitresses.
Oh, right. I know that.
So it was an amazing time for me, and I became very interested in orchestration. And one of my first LPs that I ever bought was Madman Across a Water, Elton John. Right. And all the orchestrations were done by this guy, Paul Buckmaster. And I was mad about Paul Buckmaster. Well, on this last record, I got a chance to work with Paul Buckmaster. He orchestrated 4 of the songs, including Ariana. And I got to, a dream come true was, I mean, we all, after hearing the Beatles, Paul McCartney with, you know, a string section on a beautiful solo acoustic guitar song. And I got to do that with Ariana.
Yeah, and his work with Elton John is like, I mean, it's like the gold standard of like rock and roll orchestration. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
And he had a career, a lifelong career after that.
Right.
He passed away recently.
Mm.
But we became very good friends. And we talked every week for like an hour or two about everything under the sun except music. He was this fascinating guy who was very interested in like greening the deserts and colonizing space. He always wore this NASA t-shirt. I went and got one in his honor when he died.
Yeah.
But yeah, on this last record that I did, which is now about 5 years old, it was like I got to work with Paul Buckman. So I wanted to share that with you.
If people tuning in want to find that record, how can they do that? Did they write to the coffee house perhaps, and I can let them know, like, hey, I can let you know somebody wants to buy it from you? Or
well, that record, all the other records I have done on my own, and I let them go out of print. Some of it's on iTunes, but I don't even know if they're there anymore. Yeah. I'm so retired from the music business that, abandoning all social media and online technology was part of the escape route. But that record is on a little record label run by some very good friends of mine, Don and Terry Richmond, in Alamosa, Colorado, the beautiful valley I was singing about. And it's called Howlin' Dog Records.
Okay.
And people could look up howlindogrecords.com. And there's a bunch of very interesting artists there, and a lot of them from this area, also from Austin.
Great.
That are pretty unique to the region, and phenomenal artists, and some that people will have heard of.
Is it howling with a G on the end or with an apostrophe?
They leave the G off most of the time, but I think either way it would show up.
We'll put the little thing in the comment section or something like that so that people can remember it and find it and all that.
And I hadn't really thought of it, or I would have given you a heads up beforehand.
So no, that's fine. That's fine. That's what talking songs is all about. Right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
See how professional we are?
We used to be. You and I, man, we were on the endless highway. I remember you and I go back a long ways, and you've had a very big influence on me, musically and personally.
Well, we could talk more about that after we hear a couple more of your songs. How about that?
Okay.
All right.
Here's another song I wrote and probably don't know right now. Let's see what happens. There was this little club, and John will remember this, the name escapes me, but it was in Eastern Maryland. You got to cross the bridge, cross the Chesapeake Bay to get to Eastern Maryland. And this place was in a small town. It was lovely. But I remember going for a run. I would crash with people. People were very hospitable, and we would be guests in many, many homes. Too broke to stay in hotels. And I'd go running pretty much every day. I ran every day for 30 plus years. And I would write a lot when I would run. Things would come to mind, and I would work on songs. But it had snowed, and the weight of the snow, I run on railroad tracks. They're very convenient for runners because you can get lost and just turn around and come back and hopefully find where you started. And all these trees had fallen down on the tracks and were just laying down, covering the tracks. And that inspired this song. I don't really know what the rest of the song is about, but that's how it began. Some stumble on the fortune, some cheat and steal for fame. If you leave this world defeated, got your own damn self to blame. I've seen everything I cared about, built with my own hands, swept away like grains of desert sand. When I lay my burdens down, will I rise up in the air, hear the holy angel sounds? Will I end up like that train, sleep beneath the snow, rusting in the rain like that train? The record snows dragged a weaker tree down across the tracks. If I started out tomorrow, that train's not coming back. Even if I started out today, some stumble on the fortune, some cheat and steal for fame. If you leave this world defeated, you got your own damn self to blame. I've seen everything I cared about, built with my own hands, swept away. This is a song I'm personally fond of, and it's set in Oklahoma in the 30s, and there was a story that became a screenplay, and I wish I could remember the gentleman's name who presented it to me. I was living in Oklahoma City at the time, and I loved Oklahoma. I still love Oklahoma. When I'm not in New Mexico, I tend to be in Oklahoma. Something about it just speaks to me. And I was asked to write a song for this screenplay, which was going to be made into a film. And I was on a flight actually from the East Coast to the Kerrville Folk Festival, and I was on this plane and I was reading the script and working on this song, and it came together pretty quickly. I don't know quickly or not, but smoothly. Hope you like it. The streets of this town go nowhere. The houses sit crooked and small. Your color decides how you live, how you die, and what side you'll see of the law. Stay put, 'cause leaving ain't easy. I learned quick to cheat or to lose. Lately I've wondered if the angels of mercy have fallen on hard times too. All in time, luck comes if you call. All in time, no matter how far you've fallen. All in time, and even broken down angels know you get what you choose. You get what you choose. Our daughters do just like their mothers. Our sons like their fathers will do. And if you can't find the road to forgiveness, forgiveness is where all roads lead to. All in time, love comes if you call. All in time, no matter how far you've fallen. All in time, even broken down angels know you get what you choose. All in time, all in time. And now, ladies and gentlemen, John Svetky.
Come on now, it's your show, not mine.
Ah,
I want to call attention to the thing at the bottom of the screen here. It says the virtual tip jar. If you go to the coffee house website, there's on the homepage there's a link that'll you click on it and can tip online. I haven't been able to figure out for some reason because I'm clueless or a Luddite or something how to make a link on the Facebook or YouTube description. It hasn't been working very well recently. So this is the best we can do is to like say, go to the website, donate money, and to support charities and to support artists like Don. That's my PSA for right now. That was great. That was a great song. Did that movie ever come out, get made or anything, or did it?
I don't know. I lost track of him, and years went by, and never heard from him.
Huh.
And I have this almost recollection that something happened.
Huh.
And I wrote some background music as well for it.
Huh. Did you?
So I don't really know what happened. These kind of things are, off they go into the wind, and
Yeah.
And at this point in my life, also, I don't remember things that well.
Selective.
I'm learning to live with it. It's almost like I wouldn't call it a learning disability. It might be insulting to some people, but I can't retain much anymore. I had a Hep C, pretty bad bout of Hep C around 2014, 2015, while I was making that last record.
Yeah.
That record being called Anastasia. And there were days where I couldn't make a sentence. I mean, cognitively, I was really beat up from it because I had to fight the insurance company for almost 6 months, and I just get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And
Yeah, I remember we visited with you when you were at the tail end of that, if I remember right, in 2015, I think.
In Santa Fe? Was that when we got together in Santa Fe? Yeah, and I had gotten the treatment. I think I had been on it for about 2 weeks when you guys came through. And what a world of difference, because it was pretty horrible. It was just a descent into some sort of a living hell.
Yeah, that's terrible.
It's amazing what your liver can do to you.
Yeah,
if it's not happy, it's pretty incredible. It's powerful.
Yeah, at least you're doing well now, and you sound great tonight. So,
thanks, John. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks to all the folks, Jennifer and Beverly and David and all the folks, and Brian.
Yeah, see, you get your old friend dropping by, saying
I'm
hi.
rooting for an End Construction reunion.
We did one a few months ago, actually. We did a quarantine reunion.
Excellent.
It was great. Jim Infantino was up in the
Look who's there.
Hey.
Hi.
You sound great.
It's great to see you. I love you, Heather. And I love the kids. I love you guys. This isn't as fun as hang out in Taos or Santa Fe, but this is pretty cool.
But you sound awesome.
Thank you. It's my magic microphone.
Yeah. There you go. It makes everybody sound great.
Yeah, I did a few shows with Ellis, Paul. Just doing a few songs over the course of like 10 days, and it was kind of decided that I should invest in a little bit of technology for this kind of thing instead of using my iPhone.
Was it decided for you by somebody named Elvis?
No, he's a great coach for this thing, this business. I mean, he really has this figured out, and he's so good.
Yeah.
I bought a very cool microphone, USB microphone for streaming, and I hope it sounds.
It sounds great. No, it sounds great. Awesome. It sounds great. And speaking of sounding great, how's that for a transition?
Time for some. Rumors sounded great. Your intro.
Thanks.
That was rocking.
That's the only song I have with like no words on it. We have a version of it with no words. So I'm like, oh, we'll put a background music on there.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Now I want to hear more of your songs. How about that?
Oh, you do? Okay. Be like that.
Yeah.
I have a few more, so we'll go after a couple more. And then hopefully John will chat some more with me. I love him and I miss him. It's always worth tuning. It's worth it. Unless the artist has had too much to drink and it takes a half an hour to get there. in the early 70s, I bought an acoustic guitar because I wanted to sing songs. I ended up just starting to write songs right away. And I was going to all these they were called hootenannies back then, in the early 70s, tail end of the 60s. And they're basically open mics. And there was a booming folk scene in Chicago where I was living. John Prine had just signed his first record deal. Steve Goodman was still alive. He took the proceeds from the success of City of New Orleans, which was recorded by Arlo Guthrie. It was a big hit at the time. And opened a folk club in Old Town in Chicago, which was a very different place than it is now. Very different. So I used to just cruise around to these folk clubs and play the open mics. And there was this kind of Chicago flavor of finger picking that I really loved. And it, like for myself, many of the people that I got to know in that folk scene were very heavily influenced by, more than anybody else, Mississippi John Hurt. For some reason, he was just a guy that spoke to many of us at once. So this is a song about a girl with an emulation and a nod toward Mississippi John Hurt. She got a heart the size of Texas, lips so sweet. She's a sun shower slicking up the streets. Oklahoma in the spring, home on Christmas Day. Love just like you don't mean it when you swept my heart away. All the things she does, and with her crooked little smile, pretending she ain't busy, leave her stopping for a while. Tough as railroad steel, tender as a child. I can't think of nothing when she starts to love me wild. Yeah, almost. She got a heart the size of Tibet, kisses so sweet, daisies tucked between the toes of her feet. Oh, rodeos and circus clowns, Valentine's Day. Love just like it ought to be when your heart gets swept away. Here's a song. It's not about a girl. It's about a place in Indiana, central Indiana, which is a pretty place, Indiana, especially in the south where the hills start to roll. And the sunsets are beautiful there for some reason. Maybe it's the fertilizer from all the cornfields in the atmosphere. I don't know, but they're dramatic. But it was a rainy day, and once again, I had gotten out of my vehicle to go for a run, some very rural spot in Indiana, and I'm running down a farm road, and I come across a structure and a scene, which you'll hear about in the lyric. If I tell you too much about it, I'll have to play it as an instrumental. So we'll just get into it. It's about discovering Noah's Ark. I found Noah's Ark behind a barn beside a cornfield on a rainy Indiana afternoon. Bird on a wire, cat on a fence post, and no sign that Noah would be back soon. There is nobody home. I thought I heard the barn door moan. They gave up on this place, moved to outer space. They let the grass grow long. The animals are also gone. They stuck it out as long as they could. Tucked a little note in the boat when he left, and I found it and it read, "To whom it may concern, I come back to lend a hand. The same came down again. When will you people learn? There is nobody home. You're gonna hear the barn door moan. Gave up on this place, moved to outer space. We let the grass grow long. The animals are also gone. We stuck it out as long as we could. I found Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark behind a barn beside a cornfield in Indiana. Indiana. Come back, John.
I'm here.
Thank you. Saved me.
So I was just saying to Heather that she had to come in here and watch you play the first song that you were doing with the two capos and your hands like going behind the John Hurt finger style song. It's amazing to watch you play that. But a couple of things that you reminded me of when you were talking about being in Chicago, when we met back in the early 90s, a couple years after we'd known each other for a few years, Everett Pendleton and I were driving around the country playing gigs. He accompanied me, and the two of us drove all over the Midwest and played all in Chicago and Wisconsin and various places. And literally everywhere we went, somebody knew you. It was like we would pull into the small town coffee house that we were playing at, or the college, and you'd be talking with the guy behind the soundboard. Oh yeah, who do you know? I know this, blah blah blah. Do you know this guy? Oh, Don Conoscenti. Oh, well, I knew him from back in Wisconsin days, and I knew. You'd be anywhere you went, like everybody knew Don Conoscenti. I had this recollection of being in Janesville, Wisconsin.
Janesville. That's why.
It's like this tiny little town, and it's like, oh yeah, they everybody there who played folk music knew Don Conoscenti from like 20 years ago or 5 years ago. It was crazy.
It was a weird, one of these weird things. Like they went that way. I ended up in a rock and roll band with these guys from Janesville, Wisconsin, and they had a band house about, I forget how, just a few miles out of town in the soybean fields. It was a farmhouse that was rented out, and it was just nothing but soybean fields out there. And I didn't particularly care for Janesville, Wisconsin, to be honest. Wisconsin's a lovely place, but that's not the place I would recommend. And it was a GM town, and I met a lot of wonderful people there, no doubt. But at the time, I was deep into my rock and roll years, and I had colored hair, and I'd walk through a mall, and the kids would pick on me. The kids would pick on me. I mean, now you walk through a mall and they all look like I did then, but then I was ridiculed, and picked on. But the band was amazing, and we went everywhere. And it was a really amazing experience. And one of the places, we toured the Midwest, of course, but we also were very popular in Atlanta and Key West. And I ended up having a lot of history in both of those places before and after this band, as it turns out.
Was that before or after you were here in our area, up in the Boston area, when you played?
It was part of that. In the 80s, I had these power trios. Mostly they went under the name Small Cognito. I used to be known as Dr. Cognito. Oh. And they were this jamming, in your face, 3-piece electric rock band, but we would do these kind of weird punk Talking Heads kind of things. And we'd break into a Coltrane piece and do some Hendrix, and we had all these originals. And that band bounced from Atlanta to Key West to San Francisco to Boston. And in Boston, where it began, because I was doing acoustic music on the Vineyard, and I met these guys from Berkeley who were amazing musicians. And I was always lucky that way. I lived in Vermont in the late mid-70s and hung out with all these guys from New York, from conservatories and from Berkeley School of Music. There was a pipeline between New York, Montreal, and Vermont back then. It was a very interesting time. I had coffee twice a week with David Mamet, just at this little coffee shop. And he would come to my band's shows, and they were like, it was just a weird time and place where all these people kind of congregated.
So did he learn the swearing from you, or did you learn the swearing from him?
Hard to say. We probably, drank the same water enough. And he's so brilliant. I mean, I'm a big fan. I think he learned to swear like that in Chicago, which is where I grew up in Chicago. He has a Chicago thing too.
Yeah, that's probably true, right?
But yeah, I did a stint in Boston, sleeping on couches around Boston, and playing with Ricky Anuzzi, who was just amazing drummer, and Reeves Gabrels was playing bass, but he was an incredible guitar player. And when he left my band, he moved to London with his wife, who was writing as a journalist for Christian Science Monitor. And he met David Bowie, and 6 months later, they put a band together called Tin Machine.
Right.
And Reeves played with Bowie off and on for,
years,
the next few decades.
I remember it was funny, like, again, that during the time that, right around the time that we met, I remember you mentioning that to me, and my saying, oh, and you're saying you'd fallen out of touch with Reeves. And I was like, well, he knew, he was good friends with a friend of Ellis's, and a friend of a recording engineer here, that Tom Doobie.
Right. They worked together a lot in the studio.
I can get you in touch with Reeves. And you were like, really? And it was like this. I remember.
And you did. We did get back in touch.
Yeah. And
also had a random run-in with him in New York City in the Village. I was walking down the street and he came walking the other way. I was probably with Ellis.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And we ran into Neil Fagan that same day in New York City. It was we live charmed lives. I mean, they're not easy, but magical things happen.
Well, there you go. We could talk
But-
about the Atlanta, the Don Con, my apartment, Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroad
too.
between your basement apartment in Cambridge and my studio apartment in Decatur, Georgia.
That'll be in the next segment of your show tonight. How about, do you have a couple more songs in you before we talk about the Underground Railroad?
Yeah. What to play?
There you go.
Yeah, let me try another one. This is spaghetti against the wall. I don't know what's. I don't sit around and play these songs anymore. John and I have a mutual friend. At least at the time, she lived in Austin. And I was spending a lot of time in Austin. I basically lived in Austin for a little while. And she married this guy, and it looked like it was going to be wonderful, and they had a little baby. And then things weren't wonderful anymore. And it was very difficult, very difficult. And I wrote this song basically for her. Just about how men, unfortunately, I'm going to single out men for this, and they just not very good at breaking out. Just not good. I think if you love somebody and you fall in love, you're going to love them the rest of your life. It should be like that, I think. But in this instance, it didn't go that way. It's called She's Not. She's Not in Love with You. Pain upon her that won't bring her back to you. Believe her when she says she'll find another. She's not in love with you. Sneak around, hope to catch her in the arms of some new lover. So you can scream betrayal, be the martyred fool. Rain your bitter tears down on her. She's not in love with you. She's not in love with you. She's not in love with you. Mourn a million years, cry a billion tears. She's not in love with you. Telling everybody how she took your world apart, made you a ghost among the living. Swear that you were haunted 'cause she crushed your little heart. You don't have the strength to be forgiving, but what else can you do? She's not in love with you. She's not in love with you. You mourn a million years, cry a billion tears. She's not in love with you. Tape a picture to the mirror. Dream up lies she never told. Hold the match up to the image. She stares back as if to say, it's you who has grown cold. Don't force your grievous pain upon her. Ellis Paul in the house. Hi, brother. How are you? We're talking about you. All good. John, where'd you go?
Oh,
You went to the bathroom, didn't you? You did. You went to the bathroom, admit
I
it.
did not. I was right here, and I've been actually texting Ellis in between your song, actually.
Yeah, I wish we could get him backstage here, side stage, on stage.
That's
I
possible.
hope he had a good show, Paul.
But he's probably going off to bed because it's late at this point. It's he just finished his show, so
Yes, he did. He's a hard working man.
indeed, very much. And he, so that we started to talk about the folk railroad between your house and my house back in the early 90s. It seems like all of our friends up here would stay with you, and all of your friends down there would stay with me. That was kind of the railroad, I think.
Well, the locations were very good.
Yeah, I mean, you were right near Eddie's attic, and I was right near Club Passim. So
yeah, we could walk to any of those clubs from our.
We had our old friend Bob Bedell from Catbird Seat playing for the coffee house a couple of months ago, and he and I were reminiscing of having a really nice time catching up on various things. And one of he was reminding me about the time that he and Rob came up to Boston and for like 10 days, and I have like very little recollection of whatever they did while they were up here, but I do know that they played at Passim, I think with me, and they played at the Folkway with either me and Everett or with the Loomers or something like that, like as the opening act at the old Folkway up in Peterborough, New Hampshire. But it's like my apartment, like a bunch of you Atlanta guys at the time came up here. It was really, there was a weird blizzard in April in 93 or 94 or something like that. And Christian Bush and Chuck Brodsky and Ellis and I all got stranded in my apartment for the whole day. Like we went to have lunch, and we came out of lunch and it was like a blizzard, and we're like, all right, we got to like sort of walk to my apartment, and we got snowed in for like the whole day.
That's great.
And it was the day that Christian and Andrew Hyrup got signed to Atlantic Records. Like we were at lunch, and Christian got a phone call. Like he had to like call his lawyer, and he comes back to the table. He's like, we just got signed to Atlantic Records. And we ended up at my apartment for the rest of the day because in night, like, and I think Ellis's cousin came and shoveled us out and brought food to us. It was just like bizarre, like, and they were able to leave at some point, but it was just like, 4 of us in my little basement apartment.
And it was a little apartment. 4
itinerant folk singers, There might have been other people there too. Those are the 4 I remember, but it was just this very, why Chuck Brodsky was in town, I don't know, but it was, it was fun.
The whole Asheville thing became part of the railroad too.
Yeah, I mean, staying with what's his name? Billy Jonas lived in this big gigantic house with some woman who, like, he had like 3 or 4 roommates, but it was owned by this couple, I think.
Well, and they had a ministry. They had a church.
Really?
And that place is famous. And a lot of our friends have lived there. Even Walter Parks from New York City ended up living there later on.
So strange.
And there was always about 10 or 12 people living in a house. There were like 6 refrigerators in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And Billy lived there, and I stayed with Billy there many times. It was a cool place. It was very cool.
One of the cool things I remember, I stayed there for a couple of nights, and Billy and I were hanging out. He was like just coming off the road, but he had his guitar in this tuning, and he played those 6 strings. He just bing, 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 bing. And I'm like, what is that tuning? And he said he was trying to find the sound that the railroad that drove by their house, like the railroad train, like, how a train has, how you get those train whistles.
There's a lot of weird frequencies.
That's what he tried to tune his guitar to, the frequencies that he heard in this. And I was like, I for the life of me, I couldn't tell you what it was. But when you hear one of those like wooden train whistles that you buy in the Science Museum, it sounded like that, like the guitar.
Oh,
like,
that's great.
It was.
He's a genius.
Crazy.
Really a crazy, wonderful genius. I ended up playing in the Billies, Billy and Jonas and Bill Mellinson, and we did some writing together too.
I remember.
But I ended up playing with those guys, and David Wilcox, you know, and I ended up playing in his first experiment with a band, and that was pretty interesting. Speaking of tunings, I remember I was talking to Dave on the phone one time, and he was picking away in the background while he was talking, and it was not a sound I was used to hearing from him. It was very unusual, and I said, "What tuning are you in?" He said, "Oh, it's the weirdest tuning I've ever played in. It's straight tuning, which he never plays in." Right? You know this. You know David. He was playing in straight tuning, and it sounded so unusual.
Heather and I were just on a video with David.
He's another great one. I love him.
Jim Infantino did this great video for New Year's. He has a song called New Lang Syne, and he decided that Jim's Big Ego did like 20 years ago, like the Y2K, and he redid it for the end of 2020. And he did this video, and he pulled together me and Heather and Dave and Ellis and Dar and like a handful of people, and it's like and Jim and his friend Jason put this thing together, and it was so good. It was so well done. It sounded great. It looked great. It was like so much fun, and it was like just the right vibe for like ending 2020, you know. Oh. But that's the first time I've seen David.
And you know, most if not all the people you just mentioned had stayed in. We're on the railroad.
Yeah,
stayed in my apartment in Atlanta.
I'll bet. Yeah.
At one time or another.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Mine too.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. I'm going to let you do another song or two, and then you know, we're 10:15 on our time. I don't know how much you want to keep doing, but you know,
one more. Can do one more song. Is that okay?
That's awesome. That's great.
And then get together and say goodnight.
That sounds great.
All right, let's do that. Because it's not as late here. I'm 2 hours earlier, Mountain Time. It was a special time for me when I was in Chicago in the 70s and learning how to write songs and going to these folk clubs and meeting these other artists and watching what they did. And it was a rare time because the only time in my life I actually owned a record player. I mean, I had one growing up, but as an adult. And I had a bunch of Jackson Browne records. And I lived in this 3-bedroom apartment near Wrigley Field in Chicago. And at the time, it was a predominantly Puerto Rican neighborhood. And there were a few long-haired, broke-ass, wannabe artist, hippie kids like me that were living in that neighborhood because you could. I had a 3-bedroom apartment for $130 a month. A lot of cockroaches, very run down, but all I owned was a rocking chair, a sleeping bag, and this record player, which was on loan. And there was a piano in there too. But one of the songs that hit me hardest from Jackson Browne was on his first album, and I attempted to learn it. So I'm going to try to end with that one tonight, which could be a glorious mistake. For so long.
was
Thank
awesome.
you, John.
I mean, the whole night was awesome. That version of that song is really great. We were talking about that the other day, and it was just great. Really great
Hard.
to hear. Yeah.
Hard.
I mean, I have to say that I tried remembering what it was that you were talking about this afternoon. I picked up my guitar and I was trying to figure out what you were doing. I'm like, I don't even know what you're doing. Like, and I got what you were saying, but I'm like, that would take me an awful long time to figure out how to play it like that. But it was so great to hear all of your songs tonight. It was so great. You know, it's always great to hear you sing and play, and I'm always in awe of your playing. So it's like makes me want to practice.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, it's just so nice
Thanks a lot.
to hang out with you. I'm going to put this little thing back up on the screen so people can see that info about the tip jar again. Money from tonight goes to Don. And if you want to support the coffee house in general, all the information's on that website too. Next month, the amazing Everett Pendleton is going to be our featured performer, and that's going to be great. Maybe we'll do this kind of thing with Ev next month too, because there's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for me, but I don't want to get in the way of the music, obviously. But hopefully I wasn't too intrusive.
You helped me out because I was messing up a lot of those songs as it was. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's so great. It's so
way
great.
out of practice. And it's great to see our dear friends, and kisses to Ellis Paul, and nice to meet Beverly, Jennifer, all the folks that tuned in. Thank you. Yeah,
this is really great.
Brian, really fantastic.
David and Catherine are watching tonight. My neighbor Kathy across the street, who you may have met in Taos. She may have introduced herself to you in Taos. She has a house there.
Oh, I think so.
So I told her that you were doing this, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is so great! Don's going to be on." So she sent me a text during the show. She's like, "This is so great! This is so great!" So,
cool.
So a lot of people hanging out with us tonight. But if you can hang out afterwards, when I end the broadcast, we can keep talking for a little while. That'd be great. Sure. And unfortunately, we're not going to broadcast hour just hanging out and chatting with everybody because it gets a little.
Got to go to bed.
Well, there's that too, and anyways, thank you again for doing this, Don, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And we'll hopefully see y'all next month with Everett Pendleton. Take care, everybody.